Hello everyone, I am Clint Denon 80 Plus and I will explain what is utilitarianism in general. Utilitarianism is an ethical theory founded by Jeremy Bentham and developed and popularized by John Stuart Mill. As the term suggests, utilitarianism is founded in the principle of utility, which adheres to the belief that an act is good or morally right if it promotes happiness and bad or immoral it tends to produce pain. On utilitarian grounds, action and inactions which benefit few people and harm more people will be deemed morally wrong, while actions and inactions which harm fewer people and benefit more people will be deemed morally right. The key, therefore, in utilitarianism is the principle of happiness. Hence again, in utilitarianism, an act is good or morally right if it produces greatest happiness to the greatest number of people, in bad or immoral if it produces more harm or pain than benefits or happiness to the greatest number of people. This explains why the utilitarian would not care whether the action is done out of deception, lie, or manipulation, as long as it produces maximum benefits to many people. For example, the act of condemning a terrorist to death is morally right for the utilitarian because this action produces equal benefits or greatest happiness to the greatest number of people concerned. Let us take the famous case of Robin Hood as another example. As it's well known, Robin Hood steals properties from wealthy people and gives them to the poor. From the vantage point of Christian ethics, Robin Hood's act is immoral because it deprived the wealthy people of the right that is due to them. However, from the vantage point of utilitarianism, Robin Hood's act is morally good because it produces maximum benefits that is greatest happiness to the majority of people. Therefore, utilitarian gives us another way of being moral apart from the rules and scriptural prescriptions. Thus, reason alone gives us an edge to be moral while action and laws are to be made in accordance with their circumstantial advantages rather than in their instincts nature.
So, for today's discussion, we will talk about consequentialism and its form with my co-teacher.
Hi student, I'm JB Saragena and I will discuss to you about hedonism.
So first of all, let us understand first what is consequentialism. So basically, consequentialism is when an action is considered right or wrong based on its outcome or the consequences of the certain action. Also, consequentialists believe that an action is considered right if it produces or intended to produce good over evil. For instances, lying is considered morally incorrect. However, if lying means saving a person's life, then probably that will be the best thing to do. We include two forms of consequentialism from the same, and these are utilitarianism and hedonism. In utilitarianism, an action is considered right if it produces satisfaction or happiness to a large number of people. So now, it's my co-teacher's turn to explain hedonism and the challenges of consequentialism.
Hedonism defined from the Greek word pleasure. It states that either psychological or motivational hedonism, only pleasure or pain motivates people. It claims that the desire of pleasure is the sole thing that is significant for a person and believed to be the utmost guest of mankind. Hedonists is certain with their beliefs that attaining great pleasure is a vital principle in determining the morality of an action. They live to ultimately minimize the absence of pain. Consequentialism is often criticized because understanding what the outcome of an action would be ahead of time can be challenging or even impossible. Indeed, no one with certainty will know the future. Consequentialism may also lead to actions that are objectionable in some cases, even though the consequences are arguably positive.
I am Adrian Villamor. And I am Abegail Frances Marie Superioridad, and we're going to explain the hedonic calculus. Hi! You know what? We had discussed in our new lesson about Jeremy Bentham's perspective in human behavior. Are you familiar with hedonic calculus?
As it is determining the volume of pleasure that is likely to contribute to any certain course of action.
Right! There are actually 7 things that need to consider whether to do an ethical action or not. Firstly, we've got the intensity. The things we are going to do is how deep the pleasure is going to be. Next is duration. In our whole lifespan, according to Bentham, a joy will go on indefinitely, which substantially more than one that will be pleasurable for a few seconds. How about you?
Uncertainty concerns if it is guaranteed by the action we do or it is very uncertain. Nearness or remoteness means how far this joy is going to come in the future. And fecundity, it is essentially how much further pleasure is going to be generated from.
Purity, on the other hand, if you do this course of action, will it lead to some extreme pleasure? Is that actually be some misery and suffering caused along as well? Finally, the extent. This is going to be the number of individuals who are going to be affected by the pain or pleasure.
Action take should be to promote the greatest good to the greatest number. These are the right actions to take in life. This works very well when solving moral dilemmas.
Let's say you're in a boat and you see 2 people drowning in one area, and at the same time, you see another person drowning in another area. You don't have time to reach both places. The utilitarian principle would say you should rescue the 2 people over the one. Yes, it may be unfortunate for the one, but in that situation, it is the right action.
Bentham said, you have an ethical dilemma when you determine or if you put an intervention into these things. You are trying to figure out the right way to go. So, you only figure out those 7 things when you are in some kind of moral issues.
And in a limited period of time, it is very difficult to put something through this in practice. But, Bentham said, it doesn't really matter because if you're the type of person who consistently does something, you become better at doing it or able to do so.
Good day, I am Janice G. Saban and we are on the topic number 4. Explain the utilitarian maxim, the greatest good for the greatest number of people. It is an ethical theory that determines right from wrong by focusing on outcomes. It disagrees about whether judgments of right and wrong should be based on the actual consequences of actions or their foreseeable consequences. A good example for this theory says, there's a train coming toward a group of 5 people tied to the tracks and you're standing by the lever to make the train go into a different path that is heading towards yourself. A utilitarian would pull the lever to make the train head to his or her direction. Killing one person creates a greater amount of good than killing 5 people. So, it believes that the purpose of morality is to make life better by decreasing or maximizing the amount of good things that is pleasure and happiness in the world and decreasing the amount of bad things that is pain and unhappiness. Utilitarianism ought to maximize good, that is to choose the one that will produce the best overall results. Also because in utilitarianism, everyone's happiness counts the same. When directed toward making social, economic, or political decisions, a utilitarian philosophy would aim for the betterment as a whole. The strongest objection to utilitarianism is that it ignores the right of the individual. When making moral decisions, the majority's happiness often deprives individual of their rights. And that's all. Thank you for listening.
Hi guys! In today's video, I will going to tackle all about the differentiation of two of my favorite philosophers, which named John Stuart Mill and Jeremy Bentham. But before I go ahead to the differentiation, I will just discuss quickly who Jeremy Bentham and John Stuart Mill. So let's start. So I'll start first with Jeremy Bentham. Did you know Jeremy Bentham was a philosopher, economist, jurist, and legal reformer and the founder of modern utilitarianism? He is the founder of modern utilitarianism, an ethical theory holding that the actions are morally right if they tend to promote happiness or pleasure. And for him, it is also morally wrong if they tend to promote unhappiness and moral or pain among all those affected by them. Next is the ethical theory of John Stuart Mill. Did you know that John Stuart Mill is the most extensively articulated on his classic text Utilitarianism on 1861? Its goal is to justify the utilitarian principle as the foundation of morals. This principle says actions are right in proportion as they tend to promote overall human happiness. So I'll go ahead quickly to their differentiation. So both of them taught that the moral value of an act was determined by the pleasure it produced. Bentham considered only quantity of pleasure, but Mill considered both quantity and quality of pleasure. For Mill, higher pressures are more valuable than pleasures because of their instinct superiority. So that's all for today's video. Bye bye.
Hi, I'm Sheila Sumido and I'm here to discuss or explain about Jeremy Bentham's and John Stuart Mill's utilitarianism. So written here is a word that I will discuss in this vlog or in this video. So as you can see, the first word is utilitarianism. So what is utilitarianism? Utilitarianism is a principle that above all else considered as the greatest good for the greatest number of people. One of the example is a goal to put forward with the government, that they should be judged by their policies and specifically those policies would benefit the majority of people. Next is Jeremy Bentham. Jeremy Bentham is an English philosopher and also known for his political and ethical theories. His utilitarianism is influenced by the movement that started on Renaissance and moved towards the modern period. John Stuart Mill. John Stuart Mill is an economist and he defines utilitarianism as a theory based on the principle that actions are right as they tend to promote happiness and wrong as they tend to produce the reverse happiness. Always remember on the greatest happiness principle that sacrifice one for many but never sacrifice many for one. Thank you.